Hey, someone asked about what you should be looking for in a Last Action Hero. I'm not an expert, but I do have one so you can at least compare it against things. The thing that was the surprise to me on mine was this little plastic right here is indeed clear on pretty much every one that I've seen and all the different examples on Pinside, so don't worry about that. But trying to think about what you would do. If you've never had a pinball machine before, open the coin door. There's a yellow lever here that you're going to want to hold like this, and then you lift up the lockdown bar. I can't hold the phone and do this at the same time, so if you'll excuse me. Lockdown bar just pulls out, and then I'm going to go all over the place on camera orientation. You're just going to slide the glass out very carefully, and you always want to make sure with the coin doors that you close the coin door before you slide the glass out, or there's a possibility you'll scratch the glass right there. Just what I'm going to do. I'm going to close the coin door, put the phone down again. Sorry. Alright, and take the glass off there, okay? So, whenever you're looking at a pinball machine, preferably you want all the lights to work. The GI light, which is the general illumination lighting, which is the lights that are just sitting on all the time, as well as the little lights on the inserts. I personally changed all the incandescent bulbs out for LEDs. I really like the ones from Comet for general illumination. I kept the original flashers in there though, and you can go with the cheaper stuff for the inserts. On these machines, for Last Action Hero, over here inside the door, there is a test menu, which I am absolutely terrible with on these Data East machines, but there's two buttons here, and essentially if you push one of the buttons, you can get to the audits and adjustments menu, and there's all sorts of different things that you can go through here and adjust. You probably won't want to do anything on here except for turn on free play, but there's all sorts of different things that you can go in there, turn on and off. And then there's it's like there's two buttons here. I don't really know how to switch between them, but if you turn the machine on and off while you have the other one done,
I'll be back.
if you turn it on and off after you have the button selected in, and then push it again, you'll get the diagnostics menu. So, for example, on this, for the diagnostics menu, so playfield status, okay, it's given me a playfield status, crane left limit. This crane moves left and right, and it's saying that it's all the way to the left. And if I pull this back a little bit, which you're not supposed to, you see it goes to all okay, because it's not detecting anything. Now, let's see what else we got in here. Keep pushing this button. You can do the easy trough clear. If you are, when you move the pinball machine, you want to take all the pinballs out, which if you use the easy trough clear, you can push the flipper buttons and it will eject the balls one at a time. All right. There's all sorts of other things on here that you don't really necessarily need to get into. Oh, here's a good one. All lamps on so you can test the bulbs, row lamps. Let's see if I can go back. Come on. But there's the audits and adjustments menu. I'm just going to turn it off and back on again.
I'll be back.
So, with every pinball machine I've had, my most problematic thing has always been diverters. There's a ramp diverter up here. Essentially, when you're playing a game and you shoot a ball up this ramp, when you're playing a game and you shoot a ball up this ramp, the diverter is supposed to send it forward half the time and then send it over here half the time. If you look on the side of that little diverter, there's a little place for an Allen wrench to go in there. And what I've found on this particular one is if the ramp isn't just perfect, this little diverter will scrape on the top of this piece of plastic. And what you have to do is you have to loosen that little guy, pull it up a little bit, and tighten it back down. There are magnets down here in the field which activate during multi-ball. And everything else in here is pretty simple and straightforward. Let me pull the back glass off and show you the one other thing I had on mine. When you're buying a machine, preferably get the keys with it up and out after it's unlocked. These Last Action Hero trans lights are pretty awful in my opinion. They do make alternate trans lights that are okay. So you can see in here I switched these out to LEDs but kept the original flashers. They're not that hard to replace. Pull this up. In mine I've got all the original electronics in it. When I got mine, I had rows of lights out, which isn't that uncommon in the GIs. And this particular machine, and my issue was with this connector here, and I had to take the board off and do some light soldering on the other side just to fix it with some, I don't know how to describe it, but some of the solder was burnt out, so I just replaced it and it was fine. When you get a new machine, if things aren't working, always want to test the fuses. There was one of these in here that was physically broken on mine, a burnt out fuse, but you couldn't see it even though these are slow blow fuses. So before you go nuts trying to troubleshoot things, always check your fuses. One thing that you really want to look for on machines and be leery of is battery acid leaking out of these old batteries. This particular one, there's no battery acid in here. You pretty much always want to replace the batteries when you first get one of these machines. What'll happen is old batteries will leak acid onto the boards and wreck the thing. So as long as you change the batteries once a year or so, you'll be fine. A lot of people will put in standoffs, which basically run a couple of wires to something that looks like this, except tape the batteries over here where they're never going to leak on the boards. Or you can always get the like the lithium rechargeable ones, charge them up once and leave them here, because the lithium shouldn't leak like the battery acid ones do. But you just want to make sure there's not a whole bunch of acid that's come off and onto the boards. I mean, on pretty much any machine you get that's not brand new, there's going to be some sort of chipped paint or issues. Like you can see up here. I mean, some people care about these, other people don't. I personally have found that if you go to, I think they sell this stuff at Michael's, Deco Art American Gloss Enamel Black. I would call this Data East Black. It's not perfect on here. Actually, it's really not perfect on this one. But as opposed to there being a streak of something that's completely the wrong color, something that's closer like this helps, as opposed to having bare wood there. Let's back up real quick. As far as things on the playfield that should happen, if you have it set on free play, you should be able to push the start button. So you're going to have these cycling targets here. Let me turn the volume down on this real quick. If you don't know where the volume is on these, and Data East machines, if you go into the coin door and you look at this knob right here, you just turn it down like that. And your shaker motor is right there too if it's on. So the machine's automatically going to do a ball search if it doesn't detect it. That's a good way to get the machine to cycle through everything and make sure that all your switches and whatnot work. Moving crane is a cool effect. I'm going to put the ball back in here or make it think that something's going on. So if you knock down the crane targets like I just did, the crane ready thing lights up and you can throw the ball back in there and it'll pop up in here. Whoops. If you can hit it. Come on. Well, pop it in there. It'll pop over here. Now, sometimes the ball will go all the way back, and sometimes it doesn't. But in any case, if it doesn't detect the ball going through right there, it'll do a virtual lock. So once again, you knock these down, and that puts the crane over here in a position where it can pop up. This game kind of steals a lot of rules from the Addams Family. So you start a mode by going in this hole here. You do these all one at a time to get to the wizard mode. So cat million, shoot the cat target for millions. Okay, stop vibrating. Oh man, that vibration is obnoxious on this thing. But in any case, that starts the mode, and to relight it, shoot it up the ramp. That ramp relights that light, and then you can go again. Now you'll notice when I throw it up the ramp, half the time the ball is going to go straight, and half's going to go this way. Now this next time it's going to go straight. And now this next time it's going to pop to the right. I have found, and I don't know how to fix this just yet, but if you shoot the ball up here with not enough force, the ball, and it may just be a balancing issue with me, will tend to get stuck there. So I probably need to rebalance the playfield a little bit and play with that. That's not uncommon. You can check, make sure all your switches work. Throw the ball everywhere, just make sure what you think is supposed to happen happens. You should be good. The only other thing on here that you really want to test that's likely to be broken and pretty hard to fix is going to be the magnets. There are 3 magnets under the playfield on this one. So what you're going to want to do there is get to multi-ball to test that. So you hit these guys repeatedly, I think. Let's see. And every time I hit that, you'll see 4 more for multi-ball, 3 more for multi-ball, 2 more for multi-ball, 1 more for multi-ball, and there's also one here. Okay, so multi-ball is lit, shoot the movie screen, which is this guy here. Oh, half of these have got what they call these clip protectors or metal protectors over here. These scoops get really beat up in these machines. And I think, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so I've got the magnets causing all sorts of things to happen here. So the magnets are working. There we go. What you don't want is when the multi-ball comes on, is you don't want to stick your hand here and feel it getting incredibly hot. If you do that, there's ways to fix it that are beyond me, but it's just something to test for. But on stuff like this, when you get a machine, half the time it's going to be filthy. What I'll do is when I'm looking at a machine, I'll rub a little bit. This one's been cleaned, but I've had stuff that comes out absolutely filthy before. The question was asked how to fold the head down on these. Here, I'm going to go ahead and drain the ball. So, These old Data Easts use these huge hex wrenches, and in the back there is a little hole for it. You just turn this and it locks and unlocks the machine, and it's very sturdy and really superior to a lot of the other stuff that I've seen. You're obviously going to need the wrench for the legs. I don't really know what else you should be looking for on one of these. It's a fun game. They threw everything into this. Remember, this came out about the same time as the Addams Family and Twilight Zone, and those are definitely better games. But I mean, you've got the moving crane, you've got the magnets, you've got 2 captive balls, you've got 6-ball multi-ball, you've got this cool gun trigger handle, you've got the smart missile feature. It really is a good game, or a fun game. Not as good as them. The easiest way to tell how much a game has been played is looking in here at the little, I don't know what you want to call it, the shooter lane. Because no matter what, the ball is going to pop out and hit that, and that little spot right there, and it's a direct indication of how much the game's been played. It's not necessarily bad if it's just really torn up, but if you see one that's pretty pristine, it hasn't been played much. Like, you can compare this one here over to this Jurassic Park here, and you can see there's a little bit of wear there, but not much compared to, here's the Jurassic Park, and here's this last action here. It's quite a bit more. And remember, you can always change out rubbers. I actually rubbered a couple of games with the Universal kit from Pinball Life. Come on. Alright, let's turn this off. You can always also do a little bit, there's all sorts of videos about, using Novus to clean these, and then if you're using Novus, don't just use Novus to clean it. Afterwards, put some wax on, or else you're going to have problems. But isn't this just hideously ugly? It's a fun, campy game. And just so I showed you can do it, these Data East machines, you can lift the playfield to check things underneath it. Remember, you're going to remove the balls the first time when you move this, but you can physically lift up the playfield here, pull it out, and you can set it down and rest it here. It has been my experience that you kind of sort of have to lift it on the back end as well. And it slides out a little further. And if you slide it out a little further, there's a couple of rests here. And you can see all the good gravy that goes on underneath the machine. And if you want to afterwards, you can very carefully tip the whole playfield up and rest it. And remember, the balls are going to want to fall out of the trough here, so keep your finger here just in case. Come on. Rest it on the top. Then you can visually inspect the machine. See what should be there, what shouldn't be there, what looks clean, what looks dirty. Usually, if these are clean on the inside, they've been well maintained. You're going to have your shaker motor board. I don't even know what that is, but all sorts of other stuff in here. It's been my experience that the knockers in all Data East machines are absolutely anemic and pathetic, so don't sweat those too much. And you've got a lovely topper up here that should go off during some of the modes. You just want to see that it works. And then here's your 3 magnets in the middle. There's some magnet boards and some other stuff that can be done to mess with those, but luckily I haven't had to mess with it yet. But there's a Tora Last Action Hero. Fun game, terrible theme. I haven't actually seen the movie. But there you go.